communities through their use of hateful narratives which spread lies and stoke tensions. The Deputy Leader of Britain First is subject to a pending criminal trial, accused of religiously aggravated harassment over the alleged distribution of leaflets and the posting of online material. British people overwhelmingly reject the prejudiced rhetoric of the far right, which is the antithesis of the values that this country represents: decency, tolerancy, respect. We will stand with them in doing so. This is why we launched our counter-extremism strategy in 2015 and why we launched the Hate Crime Action Plan just last year. So this House should be clear that this government will not tolerate any groups who spread hate by demonising those of other faiths or ethnicities and who deliberately raise community fears and tensions. And we have been clear. President Donald Trump was wrong to retweet videos posted by far-right group Britain First. When we look at the wider picture, the relationship between the UK and America, then I know how valuable the friendship is between our two nations. And as Home Secretary, I can tell the House that the importance of the relationship between our countries, the unparalleled sharing of intelligence between our countries, is vital. It has undoubtedly saved British lives. That is the bigger picture here, and I would urge people to remember that.
Stephen Doughty.
I thank the Home Secretary for her answer. And Mr. Speaker, you will recall that the last time I raised related matters with you before yesterday was when members from across this House raised our clear view with you that after his racist and sexist behaviour, President Trump should not be afforded the honour of addressing both Houses of Parliament in Westminster Hall. I want to thank the Home Secretary for her answer and the strength of her words, the Prime Minister for her comments and the others who have spoken out over the last 24 hours. And the extraordinary events we have seen undoubtedly underline why members from across this House were right to make that call about him not coming here and why the Prime Minister's premature offer of a state visit should not now go ahead. Now, let me be clear. I condemn the original content of the messages shared as abhorrent, and anybody who purveys hatred or violence online or in person, whether that be the fascist far right, by those who falsely claim to be acting in the name of Islam, or anti-Semites, should rightly be exposed and dealt with. But let's also be clear. This is the President of the United States sharing with millions inflammatory and divisive content deliberately posted to sow hatred and division by, as the Home Secretary says, a convicted criminal who is facing further charges, who represents a vile fascist organisation seeking to spread hatred and violence in person and online. By sharing it, he is either a racist, incompetent or unthinking, or all three. Can the Home Secretary please explain what the government is doing to crack down on the activities of Britain First and other far-right organisations, including online, and explain why Britain First has not yet been prescribed in the way that national action has been? Given the extraordinary events of the last 24 hours and the direct attack by the President on the Prime Minister for rightly condemning his actions, can she confirm whether the Prime Minister and the President have spoken? Has the Foreign Secretary, who just days ago heaped praise on the President's statements on Twitter, saying that people related to them, summoned the US ambassador to express his concerns? Can she also advise whether President Trump's actions and implied endorsement could have any prejudicial impact on the criminal proceedings currently underway against Ms Franson? And is the Home Secretary aware that she posted a video last night online personally urging the President to help keep her out of prison? And finally, can the Home Secretary confirm when she and the government will take tough action, which I support her in her efforts on the social media companies? We have had no response from Twitter, a typically irresponsible attitude. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by emphasising that I love America and Americans. My true grandfather was an American GI who came to this country in 1944 to help us fight the dark forces of fascism. And I've travelled the length and breadth of 25 of the United States, and it is a country and people of extraordinary generosity, courage, kindness and humanity. But this President represents none of those things. In one of his last speeches as President, the great Republican General and Protector of America of a great time of peril and a friend of Britain, Dwight Eisenhower, said, "Down the long lane of history yet to be written, America knows that this world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. and be instead a proud confederation of mutual trust and respect. And as we stand in the shadow of the words of our fallen colleague Jo Cox, I sincerely hope that her words that we have more in common and that his words will be heeded in these dangerous times, because we must all take a stand against hatred from wherever it comes, otherwise we will slip into the darkness.
Order. Just before I ask the Home Secretary to respond, and on the basis of sound professional procedural advice, I think I ought to say this to the House. Jada Franson, as has just been referenced by the Honourable Gentleman for Cardiff South and Penarth, is awaiting trial, I believe, on the 14th of December. And I hope that members will be conscious, while giving vent to their views, as they should and will, of the importance of avoiding comments which could be prejudicial to the proper conduct of criminal proceedings. I thank the Honourable Gentleman. The Home Secretary, Amber Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for your guidance regarding the criminal case that has been referred to. And I hope that the Honourable Member for Cardiff South and Penarth will understand that I won't reply to that particular element for those reasons. And I thank him for his words during his question. I share his views about America. I also love that country, having worked there for a year. And now, as I said in my opening remarks, I am in awe of the mutual trust we have with the Americans, the effort they make to work with us, our shared values with the American people, and the way that their work has been so important to helping us on intelligence matters, which has undoubtedly saved British lives. He asks particularly what we have done about online social media extremism of various sorts. We have taken it extremely seriously, which is why I prescribed a national action with First Far Right Group to be prescribed in this way as a terrorist organisation. He asks about other organisations to be prescribed. We are very careful with identifying what merits prescription or not. He may have a different view, but in the letter of the law that we abide by, we have to be very clear where members or activists embark on actions which are or not legal. And we have to draw that line very carefully. So we've prescribed national action, and we will always keep under review what other organisations may be prescribed. He asks particularly what else we are doing with online companies to ensure that the internet is free of dangerous material, and he will no doubt know that the UK has been leading in this area. The Prime Minister has called for more action. We called in the wake of the terrorist attacks this year for a global internet forum for counter-terrorism, which I went myself to San Francisco at the launch of in the summer. The internet companies are taking action. Twitter now takes down 95% of the illegal material through using artificial intelligence. The fact that they are now engaging in machine learning to get this hate taken down is an incredibly important investment and breakthrough to ensure that more is taken down. But we're not complacent. There's more that needs to be done, and we'll always make sure that we provide the vital leadership to ensure that it does take place. Finally, he asks about the Prime Minister. He asked about whether she had spoken to the President, and I would just say to that the Prime Minister will always have regular calls with the President, and she has been explicit in criticising this tweet. And I know that she will always make sure that she calls it out where she sees it, and that is what she's done here.
Sir Peter Bottomley.
The retweet has been condemned. We can concentrate on the wrong that was done here by the original tweet. Can we ask the Home Secretary if we can do right by identifying, isolating and putting down, putting out the intended community, religious and ethnic strains?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for the question, and it is essential that we have a fair approach to all types of extremism, and with a view to that, we always make sure that the far-right extremism is treated just as harshly as it should be as any sort of radical Islamic terrorism. And it's interesting to observe that 25% of the referrals to the Channel programme, which is the bespoke programme following Prevent referrals, are in fact on the far-right side.
Diane Abbott.
The Home Secretary will appreciate that on this side of the House, we believe the United States is our most important ally. We would anticipate that any British government would want to work closely with the United States on issues of mutual concern. And we on this side of the House bow to no one in our affection and respect for the American people. But on the question of the online activities of the 45th President, does the Home Secretary accept that the fact that the 45th President chose to retweet material from Britain First is not just offensive to British people of Muslim heritage, it is not just offensive to British people of black and minority ethnic heritage, it is offensive to all decent British people. And it is also an attack on the values of this country. So whilst on this side of the House we appreciate the importance of realpolitik, we would also call on the government to make clear that in no way and at no time does it give any support whatsoever to the distasteful views of the 45th President on race and migration and our Muslim communities internationally, because to do anything else would be affront to voters in this country, whichever side of the House they support.
Home Secretary.
Well, I thank the Right Honourable Lady for her powerful response. And I think that it is fair to say that we have been very clear. President Donald Trump was wrong to retweet videos posted by the FAR group Britain First. We have said so clearly in this House, and the Prime Minister has said so clearly online. We will continue to speak freely and frankly when it takes place.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.